English each day presents. The things we don't say. Some people have a breaking point. Mine came in two parts. First, I lost my job. Then I lost Luna. I should start with the first one. 6 years at the same company. 6 years of unpaid overtime, of pushing through, of believing if I just worked hard enough, it would mean something. Then, one Monday morning, I walked into a conference room and left without a job. They didn't even look me in the eye. Just talked about restructuring and economic shifts while I sat there, nodding like an idiot, like I was grateful for the opportunity to be discarded. I was replaceable. It hit me in the quiet moments, the ones where I had nowhere to be, no emails to answer, no tasks to complete. I had spent so long measuring my worth in productivity. Now I was nothing. Then came the second part. Luna, my dog, my best friend, the only living thing that never made me feel like I was too much or not enough. She had been my reason to get out of bed, the soft weight against my legs when the world felt unbearable. And then one night, she didn't wake up, just gone, like a cruel joke, like the universe kicking me while I was already down. I didn't cry at first. I just sat on the floor beside her bed, staring at her, feeling nothing. And then, hours later, when the silence became too much, when it finally sank in that she was never coming back, I shattered. Completely. And the worst part, no one even noticed. I wasn't planning on going home, but I had nowhere else to go. So I packed a bag, told my mother I needed a break, and found myself standing in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by ghosts I had spent years trying to outrun. Then I found the letter, tucked into a box of old family photos, hidden like it had been waiting for me to find it. And as I unfolded the paper, as my eyes scanned the words, everything I thought I knew about my family unraveled. The letter was old, yellowed at the edges, folded like someone had hidden it in a hurry. My hands trembled as I unfolded it, my eyes scanning the first line. This letter serves as confirmation of the legal adoption of a female infant born on June 12, 1993. I stopped breathing. June 12, 1993. My birthday. The paper crinkled under my tightening grip. I read the rest, each word sinking in like a knife. Adopted at birth. No known contact with biological parents. Finalized under the guardianship of Mr. and Mrs. Simon. My parents. The people who raised me. The people who never told me. I found my mother in the kitchen, wiping down the counters like she didn't just keep a life-altering secret from me. I slammed the paper onto the table. She barely glanced at it. Where did you find that? That's all you have to say. My voice was shaking. I found out I'm adopted, and you're asking where I found the proof. She sighed, rubbing her temples. It doesn't change anything, Ariana. I let out a hollow laugh. It changes everything. My father walked in, took one look at the paper, and his face fell. So he knew too. Of course he did. And just like that, the truth settled in. I had spent my entire life trying to prove my worth to people who never even gave me my own name. I left the house before I could suffocate, ended up at a bar, some hole-in-the-wall place where no one knew me, where no one expected anything from me. That's where I met Samuel. He was sitting at the bar, sketching something in a notebook. He barely looked up when I sat beside him. I ordered a drink, then another. Finally, he glanced at me. Bad night. I let out a short laugh. Bad life. He smirked. You're still here, so it can't be that bad. I narrowed my eyes. That's a terrible perspective. Maybe, he said, still drawing. But you're arguing with a stranger in a bar. So clearly, something in you wants to fight for yourself. I stared at him. No pity. No cliches. No, it gets better. Just an observation. I should have rolled my eyes. Should have left. But for some reason I stayed. I didn't go back home that night. Or the next. I crashed at a cheap motel instead, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of my own existence. For 29 years, I had been Ariana, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Simon, the unwanted second child, the disappointment, the one who worked twice as hard and still never measured up. And now I wasn't even theirs. I met up with Samuel again the next night, not because I wanted to talk, but because sitting in that motel room alone felt like drowning. When I walked into the bar, he barely glanced up from his notebook. Back again? He asked. Shut up, I muttered, sliding onto the stool next to him. He smirked but didn't push. Just waved down the bartender. Another bad night? They're all bad nights, I said. He didn't say anything for a while. Then softly, but you keep showing up. I swallowed hard, because maybe, just maybe, he had a point. I didn't go back home, but I started going back to myself. Small things at first. Buying a new notebook and writing again just for me. Going for late-night walks, feeling the air on my skin, reminding myself I was real. Telling my parents I needed space, not asking. Telling, and most of all, letting myself be lost. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to be the daughter they wanted. I was just trying to be me. One night, Samuel and I sat by the Han River watching the city lights ripple on the water. I don't know who I am without them, I admitted. He tossed a pebble into the river. Maybe that's the point. I frowned. What? He leaned back, stretching his arms. Maybe you don't have to be anyone's version of you. Maybe you just get to be Ariana, no labels attached. Something in my chest cracked, because I had spent my whole life trying to fit into someone else's story. And maybe it was time to start writing my own. The weight of my parents' expectations, still there. The grief of losing Luna, still raw. The fear of not knowing who I was, still terrifying. But for the first time, I wasn't running from any of it. I was just letting it be. I went home once, not to stay, just to stand in the doorway, look at my mother and say, I'm not coming back, but I'll be okay. She didn't answer, but something in her eyes softened. And maybe that was enough. I got a new job, not at a corporate firm, not at a place that would burn me out and spit me out, somewhere that let me breathe, somewhere that let me be. I still missed Luna. I still didn't have all the answers, But for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to be healed. I was just trying to be alive. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Love the story? Click the thumbs up and subscribe to English each day for more inspiring, emotional storytelling.